No, is that a real question? Because I did it this week. Oh.
No, it's because of where I work.
He must have heard. I think it was on the news.
What did you do this week?
Did you give someone a notice of violation or something?
Hello.
Yeah, I did it on my property.
Oh, on your property.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking.
No.
You talking dead personnel?
I work out in the Grove Zone, right? And there's that property next to Belmonet, between Belmonet and North County, where St. Thomas has been dumping their, St. John's has been dumping their dirt. And it's about 3 stories.
Yeah.
Nita.
Nice spot.
Just for you guys' knowledge, cameras are already rolling.
Was that? Or is that? I thought it
So
was
they
from
saw me
the.
sticking my tongue out?
Oh my gosh.
You love having me.
It didn't start up again until they started their work on it.
Hey, so I have a little issue for tonight. I have a closing at 8 o'clock right over there. So I'm going to leave at like 10 to 8, go to my closing, and if I get back before we're done, I'll get back. FYI.
We got
Let's hope we're done before you leave.
Well, right now, you're late.
I'll proxy vote for you.
Thank you.
Chair, so that's a question. Usually for things like that, a grading permit is required.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's not bothered me
Talking about me
personally.
leaving. I'm
It's
like,
it's not a matter of
Just going.
the amount of dirt that you can put. It's a matter of how the drainage, for example, or the urban hydrology is going to affect the properties on the side. And but usually a grading permit is required for that. I'll for sure pass your concern. I'll have a answer for you.
It's not that big a deal. We were just looking how someone's been doing it, talking about it.
No, it's something to note. Chair, if you allow me, I would like to start the working session. Yeah. Thank you. Chair, commissioners, it's truly a pleasure to be here in front of you guys today. Today we have a planned meeting. We put in the agenda 8 items. Out of those 8 items, some of them will be continued. I'm going to go really quickly to see which ones will be continued. Item number 2 will be continued. I feel bad about that one, but for the record, I haven't had time to look into it. It's something I hope I. Yes.
We're okay.
Really appreciate that. Another item that we're continuing is item number 6. We approved the site plan a couple of meetings ago. Now they're trying to do a condominium plat. When we look at the condominium, we realize that some of their detention, the detention pond is on the front, right? But that's city's property. So we cannot approve a plat that is not correct. So what's going to happen is that now that property is going to have to go to was going to go to city council first, and it's coming on August 1st. And what's going to happen is that we're going to have to vacate and then surplus that piece. Correct. So
Maybe note that that's not going to change our cross section through 700 South. It's just additional property that they'll
correct. It's just like if we take the property back for the city, it will be a strip nuisance right there. So we'll surplus it and see if the guys wants to get it and add it to their. But a process needs to happen before that. A process at city council level. That's why we cannot see the item today.
I'm uncertain, or are we
Yes,
canceling
time
it?
uncertain. Time is uncertain. So if we can continue indefinitely, be the best. And the other item, it's item number 7. That's staff have been working on amending the code in regards to fast food restaurants in the Grove. We have some language that it was already reviewed by the city attorney. We've been working with the city administrator as well. Staff came out with a proposal that was accepted. It's all good to go. Your staff didn't have time to write a staff report. Pretty much, that's what happened.
So next meeting.
Yes, ma'am. And it's not going to make a difference. I talked to the applicant. I excuse myself first, and I talked to the applicant and tell him the reason what happened. This is going to go to city council because it's a code amendment on August the 22nd. So if we do it today, or if we do it on the 10th, on the next planning commission, it will make a difference. So the applicant kindly agreed to continue the item for next planning commission. Okay, item number 8. No, that one is in the agenda. That one is easy. Okay, so I'm gonna take a different approach now, if you allow me, Chair, for the working session. Instead of going through the items, I'm just gonna ask if you guys have any questions, or if there's anything that we need to solve before we jump into a little bit of how do I say that? We refresh a little bit of the bylaws. But do you guys have any questions regarding the items for today? The items that we'll be seeing today? Pretty straightforward. Item number 1 is just it's like beating a dead horse. We already have it all ready, but there were a couple things that we needed to improve, to complete, and that's been already reflected in the staff report. Yes, sir.
Can I just ask a question about page 15, letter G? It says xeriscaping is encouraged. Can you tell me what that means?
Yes. So it's xeriscape.
Thank you.
Xeriscape,
Thank you.
which is different than xeriscape. Xeriscape is just nothing in there. Xeriscape, the best example is the landscape the landscape in St. George.
Okay.
The one that uses rocks, drought-tolerant plants, little water, less water. Kind of like what happened in Arizona, kind of what happens in, I mean, that doesn't mean they're just going to put as many rocks as they want and that's it. No, that they have to have a design. There should be some plants, some drought-tolerant plants, maybe some indigenous plants. I mean, plants that grew here, that are from here, from the region. So that's what xeriscape is. Okay.
And the fact that it's encouraged, there's no incentive to do it. It just means we recommend that you consider doing this for your landscaping design.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I think at this time Utah still enjoys a good amount of water. Pretty sure in the next years we'll have to see a change in that, especially as ordinances are going to start changing. The last planning conference that I attended to, it was very interesting how one entire hour just explained how to do the new designs for landscape. Instead of being square, they kind of are proposing to do something round, and then cutting the corners with rocks and things like that. So things are going to change in the near future. Do we have another question? Did that answer your question, Commissioner Sam?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Awesome. So, no questions? At 1, at 2, at 3, it's gone. Okay. All right, commissioners, we have something called the bylaws. Give me 1 second. I have lost it somewhere, but so if you guys are familiar with the bylaws, and if you have had a chance to read them lately, probably you guys realize that these bylaws are a little outdated. Okay, the last time these were revised was in 5 years ago. It was in 2012. Okay. Right now, the bylaws makes reference to code. state code and city code that doesn't exist anymore, or that doesn't match, right? For example, it tells us about the the duties of the chair, and then it says, please refer to this code. Then you go to the code, and it's about bars in Utah or something like that. Not that there's a relation with that chair, but well, what I'm trying to say is that it's messed up. Okay, so staff started working on the bylaws, on updating the bylaws. As I was going through the bylaws with Trevor, which is our planning intern, I realized that there were many things, many items that not just need housekeeping, that they don't that they need to be fixed, but that they need to be refreshed for us. Okay, I was going through the. First of all, I realized that we have two different documents. We have one that is just Pleasant Grove Planning Commission bylaws, and then we have Pleasant Grove Planning Commission operating procedures. So we have two documents. So what we're trying to do is combine those two documents so it's not that redundant. Again, while I was going through the bylaws, I found out some things that I think, well, we better read this and go over them. Eventually, we're going to go over all the bylaws. But today, I would like to start talking about commission membership, Article 2. Okay, Article 1 is just referrals to code that says where in the state code you can find the job of the planning commission and those type of elements. That's why we're going to start on Article 2, commission membership. Okay, so number of members, appointment, compensation, etc. Membership will consist of 7 commissioners and 1 or 2 alternate commissioners. So far, so good. That's what we have. No commissioner or alternate will receive compensation for this civic service. Commissioners and alternates may, however, seek reasonable reimbursement from the Community Development Director for any out-of-pocket expenses, Pleasant Grove City Planning Commission bylaws, and operating policies amended February.
I think that's supposed to be parentheses.
Yes, correct. Director for any out-of-pocket expenses incurred in the fulfillment of their official duty as a commissioner. Okay, that's super clear. Pretty much just telling us that it consists of 7 commissioners and 2 alternates, and we do have those numbers, correct? The planning commission cannot be compensated for their service. However, reimbursement will be done for training opportunities out there. I will definitely, commissioners, encourage you guys to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there for training. I'm going to send an email where the Luau page, where there's many videos. Commissioner Armstrong and I are part of some of those videos. Some of them are funny, some of them are very serious, but they have lots of information that are going to help us out. I know that Commissioner Phillips and Commissioner Sanderson, they're new to the group, and one thing that I would like to is not that you guys are not there, but bring you up to speed, okay? So that will help us a lot. I think I already sent an email with that link, but I'm going to do it again for everyone to spend a couple minutes. I will definitely encourage, if there's opportunities for training, there's always some opportunities in Salt Lake City. Please take them. We're going to reimburse some of those expenses. It's always good when I go. I try to attend to those. A lot of the knowledge that I get, I learn it from those great opportunities out there. It's the environment is very, how do I put this? The environment is very easy. People are very easygoing. They usually have many classes, so you can pick what class you would like to learn from. I mean, they go from how to do a transportation master plan to the difference between a permitted use and a conditional use. Please attend those. It's going to be my goal that each one of you guys either attended via seminar or online, or go to one of the training opportunities that we're going to have here in Salt Lake. I will definitely and strongly encourage that for you guys to take advantage of that. Okay? At the end, those opportunities are what are going to keep us up to date in regards to land use issues. Commissioners and alternate commissioners shall be appointed by letter. I hope all you guys got a letter. By the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council. Okay, did that happen, Commissioner Anderson? No? Okay. Things that we got to do. Okay, did that happen, Commissioner Phillips? Okay, I got to do some of that. Okay, so these are all rules. This is not Provost rules. This is Pleasant Grove rules. So we got to make sure we keep up with those rules. With the advice and consent of the city council for 4 years terms beginning the 15th day, and this is very clear, beginning the 15th day of January of the year of their appointment. So I created a little Excel sheet that I'm going to email to you guys too, where it says when you guys start your term. So if you guys started in December 30th of 2015, the time start counting January 15 of 2015 of that year. So even though you guys were called appointed in December, is on that year. So also I'm gonna send that to you. We already have that created, so I'm gonna email it to you guys. We do have it, right? Perfect. So let me see. So that talks about the terms. An individual may serve for more than one term, but must be formally appointed to each term. So once our term is done, we need to get appointed again by the mayor. Same process. We need to go. The mayor needs to write a letter. We need to get the consent of the city council, and boom, there we go. Again, I don't know what masochists will do that, but that's the process to do it. Recommendations for filling vacancies within the commission generally originate from the commission itself. The community development director shall maintain current records of the status of each commissioner's term and will initiate action necessary to maintain the commission at full membership. That's something for me to do. So far, so good? Very clear, huh? Very clear. Okay. 2.2, causes for dismissal from commission. Causes for dismissal from the commission by the mayor with advice and consent of the city council may include malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. A lot of feasances. Generally, and in particular, and this is very, very explicit, A, failure to maintain reasonable familiarity with the state statutes and local ordinances and rules affecting the commission, or failure to be governed thereby as required by section 1.2, which is all the requirements as I was telling you. So let's keep up to date. Let's attend some seminars. Let's learn let's use the opportunities out there for training. Letter B, failure to disclose conflict of interest when a member has a personal or monetary interest in the matter involved or will be directly affected by a decision of the commission, which the mayor deems to be in violation of the provision of Part Utah State Code 10.313. Grievances offering proof of such failures or other similar acts not in keeping with acceptable standards of performance can be brought forward to the community development director by any member of the commission. So I have an open doors policy. I don't even know what that means, but that's what I have. Now, you guys can come and talk to me anytime. Sometimes I'm very busy because I'm trying to get caught up with the job responsibilities, but please make an appointment, and I would love to talk to you guys about anything, any concerns that you guys have. Please, you can email me. I don't have a phone from the city, but I'm gonna get one next week. We can text, we can chat. You guys can tell me the score of the game, whatever. We can do that. Okay. Resignations, generally and by absence. Letter A. When a member proposes to resign, the member shall give notice of intent to the commission chair. The effective date of resignation should allow time for appointment of a replacement. B, failure to attend 3 consecutive regular meetings or 3 of any 7 consecutive meetings without the recorded consent of the chair shall be construed by the chair as grounds for resignation from the commission by absence. The chair may initiate removal of the member. Okay, that one's also very clear. Failure to attend 3 consecutive regular meetings or 3 out of 7 consecutive meetings. So if we miss number 1, number 4, and number 7, even though they're not consecutive, but they're in 7 consecutive meetings, that's a cause for dismissal. Okay, there's something right there that says that let me see, without the recorded consent of the chair. Commissioners, it's important. Staff tries because we have many things to do and to learn as well, but tries to get a hold of you to be here for the meetings, and we try because we, like to sit down around the table and enjoy something before. We will appreciate if you guys let us know in case you're not coming that day, for the purpose of we're not gonna purchase a meal or whatever. Please let us know when you guys are not coming. We will try our hardest also to keep in touch with you, but please let us know from there to the staff when you guys are not coming. Otherwise, we will assume that you guys will be here. Kind of like a school. We should go there, but if we're not going, then just let people know that we won't be there, and especially let the chair know, because he's the one who has the authority to give recorded consent. So during the meeting, he's gonna announce that the chair, Commissioner Sanderson is excused. He doesn't have to state the reason, but he can say that he's excused. So please communicate with your chair if you guys are going to be absent, and then let us know. That's what I have for today. Do we have any questions regarding the bylaws? Yes, Commissioner.
Notice of intent for resignation, is that written or verbal, or does it matter?
Let me see. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter according to here. Just let the chair know. Okay. These bylaws, like any other ordinance, can be up for amendment. Like I say, staff is working on them right now because we're combining them with the operating procedures. So we're gonna amend this. Same process. We're gonna work on them. Once we're done working with them, we're gonna pass them to the city attorney. City attorney will review them, and then we'll present them to you, kind of like any other amendment to any other ordinances. And you guys will have a chance to go read them and go through them, see if you're going to make changes, keep them as they are, and we can work on them. So that's a work in process. As I'm talking right now, we are working on those, on amending the bylaws. Do we have any questions regarding the bylaws and what we review so far? Next week, just continue to a different item, and we'll keep going and going until we, there were things. This is embarrassing. But I'll be the first one to admit there were things that I didn't know. It's so easy to let things go, but if we keep them in our minds and as we keep going through them, I think that will help us to have them present in our minds. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. You guys have a comment or something? Do all of you have my email, right? You all have my email? Yeah. It's been a little difficult to be on the phone these days, but email is the easiest way to get a hold of me. And soon I'll have a phone, and like I said, we can text, we can do everything, share information. I'll be glad to see your winter and summer vacation pictures. Okay? Thanks so much, Commissioners.
And I've always kind of been doing building, so Ken assigned me building and Linda.
You have a question, Chair? No? Okay.
Really had the training on any of this planning commission stuff, so it was just kind of I did Board of Adjustments all along, so I kind of did it the same as Board of Adjustment.
Throw this one. So it's kind of.
Okay, pass this down.
kinda
I do
thrown in.
not want it in front of me, please. Matt, you want to?
Round two.
What? It's already recorded.
Getting our clock slow, right?
It's when the minutes are right, but the hours wrong when minutes are on.
This is a Pleasant Grove City Planning Commission meeting held July 27th, 2017 in the City Council chambers. Item 1. Mess that up. This is the Pleasant Grove City Planning Commission held July 27th, 2017 in the City Council chambers. Item 1.
It does. That was just a working session. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what everyone's just, now we're going to do that.
Okay,
That's the
who's
working
doing that?
session. We were working on some bylaws and some rules and things like that. So, I haven't seen this yet. It's the same one. So you ready? Yeah. And then, what are those?
Matt and Sam.
Oh, that's the motion. Those are how they're going to say the motion, kind of like that.
Oh, okay, so they haven't approved or continued or
No,
denied.
those are the three options and they decide what to do. This is just examples of how they should get the options.
And then
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah. Yeah, because I proposed something last time, what's in blue right here. They didn't like that. And the guy that came here also said, no,
Jeff.
that's not, yeah, so we came out, we worked on that. So that's what we came out with.
This is
Just the red one. This is what got it.
So
Yeah.
we can talk about continued items.
This is what we discussed last week.
Or are we doing?
That they didn't
I
like
think you
it.
said
Two.
two is continued, and then 6, was it 5 and 7?
okay with
2
the
and
red
7
one,
is
and we can
continued
take
until
this.
August 10th.
Okay.
Item 6 is continued indefinitely.
Anytime.
Oh,
Jeff's one of the old, one of the old.
Okay, we will bring this meeting of the Pleasant Grove City Planning Commission for July 27th to order. We will excuse Commissioners Hawkins and Lovell from this meeting, and we will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Neidiger and opening remarks from Commissioner Sanderson.
Everyone, please rise. Let's repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He said it has been turned on.
Our Father in heaven, we thank thee that we might be gathered for this meeting tonight, and give thanks to thee also for the freedoms and privileges that we enjoy by living here. We ask for thy blessing as we discuss matters pertaining to Pleasant Grove City. Help us to be good stewards of our blessings and responsibilities here. We say this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay. With the agenda for those here, 3 items on the agenda are going to be continued to future meetings. Those are item 2, which is regarding a change to city code to allow the use of metal shipping containers in residential zones, and item 7, which is regarding a change to permitted and conditional uses in the Grove Interchange Subdistrict. Will be continued to August 10th. Item 6, regarding a preliminary subdivision plat on 700 South, will be continued indefinitely. Can I get a motion on the agenda?
Chair, I make the motion that we approve tonight's agenda with items 2 and 7 being continued to August 10th and item 6 being continued indefinitely.
Motion by Commissioner Baptista, second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any issues with the staff reports?
Chair, I make the motion that we accept tonight or approve tonight's staff reports.
Second.
Was that you, Matt? All right. Motion by Commissioner Baptista, second by Commissioner Neidiger. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any conflicts to declare or reasons to abstain from an item?
Chair, I don't have conflict or reason to abstain, but I do need to be excused about 10 to 8. I will get back as quick as I can.
Excuse me when we get there. All right, and we'll move to item number 1, which is a public hearing to consider the request of Preston Davies to amend City Code 10-12, Article A, Business and Manufacturing Park Zone, BMP, by revising and reorganizing the provisions regarding permitted and conditional uses, as well as various zoning requirements.
Thank you, Chair. If you allow me, I would like to say something about the staff reports. I just like around 6 p.m. I got a plat for item number 8. So once we got to item number 8, especially the people who printed the plat that you guys have is not what the latest version of it. So once we get to it, whatever I have in the images, and I put it in the Dropbox. I fixed the staff report. So for everyone who has electronic copies, as long as you guys refresh that, it will come to it. But if you guys have a hard copy, I'll explain to you what the difference is at the end. So that's something to say about the staff reports. Okay. Now, if you guys allow me, we can go forward to item number 1. So item number 1 is a city code amendment for section 1012, article 8, which is in regards to the business and manufacturing park zone. So this is an amendment for an entire zone. The applicant is Preston Davis, and he's proposing some amendments. The amendments are various. During the last couple of planning commissions, we've been going through these proposed amendments. What the applicant is requesting, what the staff is proposing, and it looks like we have reached in the middle in regards to some of the items. What you guys have in your staff report, that's the final version of this months of work, right? Months of works. So amending a whole zone is not an easy task. So I appreciate you guys' patience as we have been going through this process. As we know now, because we talk about this multiple times, Pleasant Grove has 2 zones that were intended for industrial use. We have the MD, which is the manufacturing distribution zone, which it has the most intense type of uses. And then we have something that we call the BMP zone, which is right here. BMP zone is the business and manufacturing park zone. Again, the MD is the manufacturing zone. That's the run-of-the-mill manufacturing zone that most of the cities have, where the most intense uses will happen. That's where the cows get killed and the leather is being used. So this is the most intense zone. As Pleasant Grove, it's a little different than other cities. We don't have a lot of frontage to I-15. Most of the cities have their manufacturing zones along I-15. The city, we took a different approach, and we have our manufacturing zone inside the city. And what we have along I-15 is something called the Grove. Now, the Grove is the I always say this, and I don't know if it makes sense, but I like to call it the crown, the jewel of the crown of Pleasant Grove. That's our most, if I say, pristine zone in regards to design and landscape requirements. And then the MD zone is the total opposite. They're on the extremes, on the opposite poles. So the BMP zone was put in there with the intention of creating some sort of like a buffer. When the BMP zone was established, it was established, like the name says, a business manufacturing park. Was for close to my heart. Okay, close to my heart owns a lot of land right there. And when this zone was established, it was established with a industrial park feeling. And when I say that, I'm talking about big areas for landscape, large amounts of setbacks, and elements of that type that give the feeling of a industrial park. Now, our general plan understands or encompasses or things that proposes that the land use designation, which is different than the zone, the land use designation for industrial also takes a little bit, it goes all the way right here, which the BMP zone is this area right here. So some of it allows for some rezone if a rezone was proposed. However, we had meetings with elected officials, we had meetings with you as well, and some of the decisions that were taken is that the intent was never to disappear the zone. On the opposite, it was just to some amendments will be required, because if amendments are not done, there are some lots that will be impossible to develop. For example, these lots right here, which is the applicant. I think the applicant owns the lots right here. And later on in the process, I got a phone call for the property owner of this property as well. And with 50 feet setbacks in the front, it will be difficult to develop the land. It looks like some developers have already tried to do something with it, but because of the restriction was a little difficult. So what we did, I'm gonna I'm gonna make it condensate. Does that no? Condense. Thank you so much. That's why I have the public here in the back. They go my back here. Yeah. So I like to condense it in 3 changes. Number 1, what we did was we include new uses, new permitted uses that were not allowed before. The type of uses that are included now are light manufacturing. Everything that has to do with already finished products. So we added, if you guys go to your staff report and to the list of uses, all the ones in red, those are the new uses added to the zone. Now, we took away conditional uses. We want to run away from conditional uses. So we create for the conditional uses some qualifying provisions. So they're permitted under some qualifying provisions. That's number 1 thing that we did. Number 2 is that we lessened the requirements for some requirements that staff consider onerous and they make difficult the development of this land, especially in regards to the setbacks and in regards to the requirements for landscape, which were large. And we talked about those numbers before. Now, the applicant suggested a couple of changes. So this is where the staff and the applicant didn't meet in the middle. So the applicant still had this question. So staff reduced the setbacks, but there were some we didn't meet. We didn't see eye to eye in regard to the rear yard setback. So staff reduced the setback from 25 feet to 20 feet. So one of the goals of being a planner is not being capricious. We're just popping up a number and say, this is how I like to do it. So the number the 20 feet came from the MD zone. So that's what's required. The applicant requested to get a 15 feet setback if the property neighbors are residential use, or 0 setback in the rear yard if the property is adjacent to another business or manufacturing uses. In reality is that in the near future, also in the long future, we don't see any residential in that area. Actually, it was one of the requests from City Council is to have no residential whatsoever. So in reality, what the applicant will be requesting is a zero setback. The staff still recommends that we follow the setback that is already established for the manufacturing zone. So, the other issue where applicant staff didn't see eye to eye, but we worked on this during the last meeting. Just let me bring up a little bit what happened during the last meeting. Is the staff proposed some changes to allow some sort of like outdoor merchandise display. And it seems staff received direction from Planning Commission in regards to some specific points to change that, okay? Staff still recommends, let me see. Okay, so what I did, what staff did is remove the past or the recommendation that I had from last Planning Commission, and this is the language that came. And that's the language based on the discussion that we had. So before, right now, as the zone is, as it exists right now, it prohibits any use outside the building, period. That's it. So no use is allowed outside the building. But what the applicant and staff is proposing is that for a yard storage, that outdoor merchandise displays, the storage of merchandise for displays should only be allowed under compliance with all of the following circumstances. Number one, that the maximum area designated for the storage of display products shall not exceed 25% of the footprint of the main building. That was direction from you. All the merchandise for display shall be behind an enclosed area attached to the main building, and the wall of such an enclosed area shall be constructed with the same exterior finish as the main building, except for the gate. This also was a recommendation from the Planning Commission. The enclosing wall shall be 1 foot higher than the height of the display merchandise, and the maximum height allowed for the storage of display merchandise shall be 10 feet. That allows for some machinery or something big that would like to be storage in there. The location of the designated area for the display of merchandise shall be attached to the main building and be located on the side yard or backyard area. This is something that the direction from the chair. And that the area designated for the display of merchandise shall be subject to the same setbacks required for the main building. So that's what we had. That's the final product that staff came out. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission forwards a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the amendment of the BMP zone, having 20-foot setback in the rear yard, and also allowing some outdoor merchandise display as long as all the circumstances are met. Do you guys have any questions?
I had asked you about last week. I asked you, and you were going to check with Tina on the one conditional use.
Correct.
Did we get anything back from her?
No.
Any other questions? Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Chair.
The applicant care to add anything? Give us your name and address again.
Preston Davis. I think you still have Davies up there. You're taking me back to 7th grade homeroom. The guy for the whole year would never change it from Davies to Davis. So, but yeah, Preston Davis, representing Jeff Lindstrom and Dave Told. And we went through the uses maybe 6 weeks ago when I was here, and I think everyone seemed to be okay with that. As far as reducing the setbacks to what Daniel recommended, we're okay with that, which is what he said, the 20-foot setback. So we're fine acquiescing from the 0 and the 15 to the 20, like he mentioned. And then as far as the yard, that seems very reasonable. We've had time to review that, and we're we're on board with what Daniel's recommending on the yard requirements and constraints. So if you have any questions for us, we'd love to answer them, but I think with the yard and the setbacks, we should be there, but obviously we want to get your feedback for sure.
Any questions for Mr. Davis? All right, thank you.
All right.
My report says Davis.
Just the screen.
You can have.
MD is where we kill cows.
Yeah.
You can't have it everywhere. It's in the staff report.
So we will open this for public comment. If anyone would like to comment on this item. All right. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here. I'm going to entertain a motion, or if anyone has something they'd like to discuss.
Mr. Chair, I'm willing to make a motion. I move the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the request of Preston Davis for the proposed amendments to City Code Section 10-12- Article A, Business and Manufacturing Park Zone BMP, and adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report.
You maybe specify the staff recommendation on rear yard setback.
Yes, and that we adopt the staff's recommendation on the rear setbacks.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Coombs, a second by Commissioner Baptista. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. All right, item number 2 has been continued to August 10th, so we'll move to item number 3, which is a public hearing to consider the request of David Patton for a conditional use for a fence exceeding 6 feet in height on the property located at 1033 North, 1700 West in the R18 single-family residential zone.
Daniel will go first. You want to do Daniel's job? He's not going to stop you.
Thank you, Chair. The following item is a conditional use permit for a fence. We talk about this. In the near future, staff is going to work on this to remove that from a conditional use permit. The applicant today is David Patton. This property is on 1033 North, 1700 West. The zone is R18, single family residential zone. That's the property. The property is a kind of like this is the perfect explanation of a flag lot, right? So you got the stem of the flag, and then you have the flag part of the lot. The fence that is the fences that are proposed are along the side yards of the flag lot on the north side and on the south side. It looks, according to the application, the 8-foot fence, it's going to be on the north. It might be on the south, or something that we'll need to ask the applicant when he comes to the front. Here's an aerial picture of the property. Again, there's the driveway, perfect explanation of a flag lot. And then the material of the fence right here on the north will be wood and corrugated metal fence. And on this side is chain link fence. Chain link fence is not allowed on the front, but it is allowed on the backyard and on the side yards. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this ordinance that we have. So the ordinance as we have it right now says that everything taller than 6 inches, any fence taller than 6 inches, 6 feet.
Almost the same thing.
How about this? Everything taller than 72 inches. Right?
There you go. There
Okay.
you go.
All right. Yeah, there's not one planning commission that I don't make a mistake. I'm so glad you guys are patient enough with me. So anything taller than 72 inches or 6 feet, our ordinance requires to get approval under a conditional use. Now, I think that the reason why was done like this is because 4 years ago, the IBC, the International Building Code, require for any fence taller than 6 feet to get a building permit. Okay. Now the International Building Code changed 3 years ago, and now they say that for the fence only needs a building permit if it's taller than 7 feet. So it's a little irrational if we request 6.5 foot fence to get a conditional use and not a building permit. So we'll work on that. Staff is going to work on that. Plus conditional use permits, as you all aware, they should be allowed under certain conditions. Or ordinance doesn't have explicit conditions. There's a couple that we can infer from the language of the ordinance, and for example, that they should be made out of the proposed fence. Let me see. Give me 1 second. So you just said that it should be made out of durable materials. Pretty open. So according to what the applicant proposed, those are durable materials. What staff is going to do is maybe, and we'll work on this, but let me go. I'm not going to talk about the future. I'm going to concentrate on this, if you may allow me. The only condition that we have in this case will be that the applicant submits for a building permit. Other than that, the staff recommends approval of this conditional use. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. In all honesty, this is a conditional use that shouldn't be a conditional use. Any questions?
Thank you, Daniel. All right, Mr. Patton, would you care to give us your? I guess we have your name and address, right? But
yeah,
state it for the record.
I'm actually here representing my dad. He's not able to make it because of work. So I'm not sure what kind of questions you guys have, or.
Told you it wasn't working. Do you have anything to add to what Daniel said, or any?
No, that's.
Can I just ask for curiosity's sake why he's using 2 separate materials on on opposite sides?
Actually, not entirely sure. I don't know if that's a mishap, but I was under the impression that both fences would be the metal and wood. So I don't know if that's a mistake or something my dad did, but I was aware that it was metal and corrugated galvanized steel.
I was just wondering because I thought that would be a.
Because I'm pretty sure chain link fence is already there, so.
Okay, so he's replacing it.
He's replacing it with the metal and the wood.
Any other questions? Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on this item if anyone would care to comment on it.
Just kidding.
Yeah, if you can come up, give us your name and address.
I'm Taryn Redford. I am at 1002. What is it? West.
We need it for the record anyway.
For the record, we need to know.
1750 North. That house right there. So that's our back fence. And it was never clarified as to if that is also going to be an 8-foot fence.
Say that again, ma'am. Sorry.
I first asked. You said at first that just the one was going to be an 8-foot fence, but my understanding was both of them are. Is that?
Yeah, both of them are.
I think it just wasn't labeled that way.
It wasn't labeled that way. So, Jared, most of the information that I got for this was what it was presented on a hand-drawn site plan that I received.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we first had the question as to why they feel this is necessary, and second, what the plan is to put up the fence. We have dogs in our yard, and we need the fence to keep them in, so we can't have the building time of no fence if they take that down and put up a new fence. So I guess just questioning the plans for that and curious as to their reason or feeling of need. There is a chain link fence that's good now.
That's all, right? Can I get your address one more time?
1002 North, 1002 West, 1750 North. Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? Would you care to respond to any of those questions, Mr. Patton? I don't know if you have answers to those. But
I think the biggest thing was just privacy. I think that was the biggest thing. So I'm not sure otherwise than that. I think it was just privacy, really.
Okay.
You know.
Sorry. Do you have an answer to her question about how you're going to maintain the fence?
Hold on for a second. Who owns the fence?
That's my question.
The fence that's there
The
now.
chain link that's
That's, I
there now.
think, what needs to be established too. I'm not exactly.
Is the chain link on your side and the posts on her side, or is the chain link on her side and the posts on your side?
I don't think I've looked.
you could give us your name and address.
Can I ask? Melissa Griffith. I am 1017 North, 1700 West, so I'm in the house in front of theirs, so I sit on the street. I believe the chain link fences belong to the neighbors on the north and the south side because they're established before that home had been built. So I've been there the whole time. And so they were there property-wise. I'm guessing it was theirs because those fences were in before the home behind me was built. And so if that clarifies any.
Daniel, did you have something you wanted to
Staff recommends, Chair, that take into consideration that this is not a conditional use for the removal and the rebuild of a fence. It's just for a fence taller than 6 feet.
Yeah.
So regarding who owns who is a civil matter. So for today's item, we're just talking about conditional use for a fence taller than 6 feet. If the applicant had brought a fence that it was 6 feet, we wouldn't have any question whatsoever regarding that. So again, the item that we're seeing here today is just for the addition of 2 feet, regardless of who owns the fence. That's a civil matter.
Yep, thank you.
The reason that I was asking is because if you can't take somebody else's fence down if they built it, they would end up building their fence right inside your fence. So if you own that fence, then they're not going to take that down. But it's like Daniel said, we're not here to discuss that. And honestly, what I would do is I'd walk over and knock on the neighbor's door and say, hey, we're worried about how you put this together. Because Daniel's right, that doesn't really come before us. But if it's your fence, somebody else can't take your fence down. They can build another fence right inside the fence line. Or you could say, hey, do you mind if we take this down and live with the fence that probably is going to be prettier than yours is? So.
Okay, any other public comments before we finish this off? Give us your name and address.
Steve Winter, 1727 West, 1060 North. On the side of it. My house is their north side. Now, I just wonder, I don't want to have a fence inside the fence. Because that looks stupid and sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But those are issues or things that you need to work out with your neighbors. You know.
Go knock on the door.
Yeah. So what we're looking at tonight is.
And Chair, if you allow me, I would recommend that if someone has something to say, come to the podium and talk direct to the microphone, please.
Somebody can't take down your fence, but if you want it down because the other one is prettier, I'd go talk to them. You know, I mean, you might have an opportunity to go ahead and get something on the sides at the same time that looks great, you know. But somebody can't take down your property. If that's your property, then, you know, I mean, they can destroy your property in the process of putting theirs up. But I just go talk to your neighbors. I mean, I think a lot of us have been through this whole process with our neighbors, and that's the way it works. So, sure.
Just mention your name again. We
Steve
record.
Winter.
Yeah.
And I know the neighbors don't like us, so I don't know how that's going to work because our dogs bark. So that's why the fence is going up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
Well, and so
We're
what?
just here to say yes or
Yeah.
no to 8 feet.
Again, what we're doing tonight is just looking at whether to allow 8 feet as opposed to 6 feet. And that's the only thing we have control over. So,
All right.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments before we finish? Okay. We'll close the public hearing then. Any other comments from the commission?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the proposed conditional use permit request for a fence taller than 6 feet along the north and south property lines, side yard, of property located at approximately 1033 North, 1700 West in the R18 single-family residential zone, and adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report, which includes all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met. A building permit shall be obtained before any construction takes place, and the fence has to meet city code requirements regarding materials and design.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Baptista, a second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We will move to item number 4, which is a...
Chair, I'm sorry I interrupt. Staff is open to receive direction from Planning Commission in regards to amend the code for conditional uses for fences. So if it's your wish, I'm open to receive direction from you.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
our wish that you update our code on.
Yeah. All right. Did you want ideas on how the code should be amended? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
Right. Maybe we could put an item on our next. I don't know if that would be an official item or something we do during the work session.
During the work session? Perfect.
Yeah,
all right.
We can discuss that. All right, so we'll move to item number 4, which is a public hearing to consider the request of Jason Lott for a conditional use permit for the building of an accessory structure exceeding 18 feet in height. The applicant is proposing a 20-foot tall pool house on the property located at 1285 West, 3150 North in the RR Rural Residential Zone. And if your item's done, feel free to leave. We won't be offended. You don't have to stick it out.
Chair, next item is also a conditional use permit for a structure. It's an accessory structure that exceeds the 18 feet limit in height that it's in the ordinance, established in the ordinance. The applicant is Jason Lott. The property is in at 1285 West, 31st 50 North, and it is in the rural residential zone. One thing to keep in mind is that there are no restrictions on square footage on the rural residential. There's restrictions for the total lot coverage, but not on the square footage of accessory structures. This is the property. It's in the middle of rural residential, half-acre lots. The lot has frontage to this street right there. I can't see it from here, but
3150.
Thank you, Chair. And the proposed location of the structure will be in the backyard, all the way right here. And it will be for the intent use. It's I think I have an image of it. So here's an aerial view of it. So here's the property, just having frontage on the street, and the structure located in the backyard. That's quite the picture, isn't it? That's the proposed elevation of the building. So staff did the measurement and came out with 19.5 feet. I didn't measure this peak, but the applicant did, and from the peak to the foundation is 20 feet. So that's what it was proposed. This came as a building permit, and as the staff was reviewing the building permit, it realized that exceed the 18 feet, and therefore we're here to approve as a conditional use. The ordinance does have some conditions in regards to this type of structures. The conditions are that that the accessory structure shall match the primary dwelling with architectural similar materials, colors, and details. The construction of sheds built of metal, vinyl, or other similar durable materials shall include a wainscot, siding, or similar architectural features covering a minimum of 30% of all building sites, except door areas made of similar materials or masonry used on the primary dwelling. So that's the site plan. Again, it looks like this is going to be the where the engine or the pool filters equipment will be located, and this is just a covered patio. Since it's all covered and under semi-structure, the square footage of the whole structure, I think, is 1,083. So again, it's a straightforward conditional use. So as long as the applicant meets the requirements already established in the ordinance, in the city code, staff recommends approval of the building to go up to 20 feet. There's another restriction that says that it should go, the tallest it can go is 25 feet or the height of the main dwelling. So I look at pictures of the main dwelling. I didn't have one, but it's quite a dwelling and it's tall enough. So 20 feet fits perfectly within the ordinance. Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
Do you know where? I mean, can you give me the actual zoning code that specifies that? I'm looking up frantically right now, but
yes, sir. If you guys, we gotta go to. Give me 1 second. Title 10, it's planning and zoning. Then we go to Chapter 9, residential zones. Article 8, rural residential. And on the rural residential, if we scroll down to 10,
I was looking, I couldn't find it.
I'll find it.
Bottom.
Uh,
I still want to look at this because I want to see that there's a. I think
okay, so go to where it says yard requirements. I think I have it right here. Yeah, right there. Sorry. 10988. 10988. Yard requirements. Under letter G, accessory buildings, and letter B, and then number 3.
Sam, did you have a question?
Yes, just Daniel, do you know the reasoning behind the 18 to 25 feet? Is this something similar to the fence issue that we discussed just previously?
No, this is a little different.
Okay.
This is a little different. There's a history on this type of structures, accessory structures being tall.
Okay.
That's all mine does. It's cut off.
Part of the staff report's cut off on ours.
The staff report's
the
cut
maps
off?
weren't showing up properly.
Okay.
Yep, the pictures aren't.
Yeah. I think that's
So the pictures are not being shown in there?
Yeah, that's why.
they're at the bottom of the
Oh,
page.
wow.
Anyway.
Let me see if it's how I have it right here. It shows in my computer. Sorry about that.
It just didn't copy over to a Dropbox.
We can see
Didn't
it
copy
here.
over to Dropbox. Let me see. Well, they're the same pictures that are right here.
So yeah, we got it. It's just not showing up on our stuff.
My apologies.
Do you want the hard copy? Do you need the hard copy?
No, I mean, I realize he's showing it to us up here. I'm just.
So it's set back 10 feet from the
Correct.
rear property line.
That's the and that should be checked or reviewed at the time of when the building permit.
Yeah.
Application, which we have one already.
Any other questions for Daniel? Okay.
I guess I do have one. Daniel, do you have any clue when you were out doing measuring or anybody else was, what the height of the accessory structure is that's behind the property at 1276 West and 3040 North?
No, sir. Usually don't measure the neighbors.
Yeah.
They tend to have shotguns and.
If you wear an orange vest, you'd be fine.
It's true.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Sorry about that.
Would the applicant care to add anything on this?
Is that off the record?
I'm Jennifer Lott, and I guess you have my address already. And we did measure the building behind us, and it is 19.5 feet.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions for Mrs. Lott?
But that's very helpful.
Thank you. All right, we'll open this up for the public hearing. If anyone would like to comment, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here. Any comments, or I'm ready to entertain a motion?
I'll make a comment. This is one of those things where neighbors can get really angry with allowing conditional uses to go through. At the same time, I don't see any neighbors here, so that's a good sign. For me, I feel comfortable with it because it looks like, and I'm completely trusting that it's as high as it is, because it looks like that building, that's the accessory building that's behind the property, was built to house an RV, and so I'm sure it's pretty tall. That being the case, I think that I'm comfortable with this one because I don't think the neighbors are going to be upset that we approve the conditional use.
Are you making the motion then, Drew?
I will make the motion, except now I don't have it open, so Jennifer does. Let's see. I move that the Planning Commission approve the request of Jason Lott for approval of a conditional use permit for a 20-foot tall accessory building on the property located at 1285 West and 3150 North in the RR Rural Residential Zone, and adopting the conditions and findings of the staff report as modified by the conditions below. The accessory structure shall match the primary dwelling with architecturally similar materials, colors, and details. The constructions of sheds built of metal, vinyl, or other similar durable materials shall include a wainscot, siding, or similar architectural feature covering a minimum of 30% of all the building sides, except the door areas, made of similar materials or masonry used on the primary dwelling. All final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met. That's it.
I'll second.
Have that a motion by Commissioner Armstrong and a second by Commissioner Coombs. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move to, thank you, Mrs. Lott. We'll move to item number 5, which is a public hearing to consider the request of Pleasant Grove City to amend City Code Section 8-4A-19, policy regarding service laterals, creating an exception for a single service lateral in 1- and 2-family dwelling structures as approved by the city engineer in the Pleasant Grove City Code. The exception would allow a single sewer lateral to service a 2-family dwelling if any street or roadway is less than 5 years old and would need to be excavated in order to install a second service lateral.
I think you just read the whole amendment right there, huh? Chair, the next item, it's not an item from chapter number 10. It's not a land use item. However, it affects land use, so that's why we decided to bring it to you. Engineer, this is a proposal from the staff from Pleasant Grove, and it came from the engineering department. So, Chair, if you allow me, I will let Mario Gonzalez to present this next item.
Okay. Mario. And Commissioner Coombs is free to leave in the middle of this if she needs to.
Thank
you. The rest of the public did, so one more it doesn't hurt.
Me as well.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I wanted to bring this up to Planning Commission and give you a background of the needs to amend this code. So this is a text amendment to Ordinance 8-4A-19, the policy of regarding service laterals. I believe Daniel included this nice drawing that I sent him. I'll give you a little background of how sewer laterals work. This is the sewer main on the street or on road. Typically, if you have a home here, the sewer lateral would tie into the sewer main, and then this would be just one connection to the home. This text amendment would allow a twin home to be able to tie in two sewer laterals or service connections to a sewer lateral, so that a street wouldn't have to be cut if it's a new street. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And then I'll read a little bit of the staff report to give you some in-depth analysis on it. In situations when a property is proposed to be subdivided to construct a two-family dwelling structure under separate ownership, typically it is required to excavate the road to install a second sewer service to the additional structure. If the road is cut, it decreases the service life of the pavement, sometimes as much as by half. This dramatically increases the pavement maintenance cost, which creates a burden on an already scarce pavement maintenance fund. With the knowledge that the request for two-family dwelling structures is very infrequent, staff has agreed that a modification to the current ordinance will allow a more flexible alternative for residents. In turn, it will also allow a road to remain uncut, thus keeping it functioning at an optimal condition for a longer period of time. And the 5-year moratorium that we would give is a common time frame for restricting cutting into new roads. The requirement is that once the applicant or applicants select this option, they would need to provide a service agreement, which is recorded at the Utah County Recorder's Office against both properties. The agreement would run with the land and state that each owner is jointly responsible for any necessary maintenance, cleaning, repair, or replacement of the joint lateral. And the reason we include that agreement is because if it's two separate owners and for some reason an owner ends up backing up the system that requires maintenance, the other one would be at some point affected in terms of service and possibly the pipe infrastructure. The city engineer also included that 3 conditions must be met to be able to use this amendment. The street excavation for the installation of a new sewer lateral would require cutting a road that is less than 5 years old. A service agreement from both parties is submitted and approved, and then the request has received approval from city engineer. So this would be a case-by-case basis, but it would allow any lots that may not have been developed and are able to be constructed as a twin home to be able to come in without affecting the street infrastructure. I hope that makes sense. It's, as Commissioner Baptista calls, a housekeeping item.
Okay, any questions for Maria?
Just one question. Talks about they both need to join within like 10 feet of the house.
Yes.
The sewer main.
Yes.
Would it make any difference or more sense to have them come out as close to the curb and gutter to join as possible?
Yeah.
And then have a clean out maybe on each side?
Yeah. In fact, we typically have them to the back of sidewalk or close to, so it's easier to maintain, and they would typically have an additional clean out closer to the home as well.
Just felt like if there was more space between the home and the main, if something were to get blocked up, it'd be a little, might back up the culprit's house before it did the other person's. But
right, yep.
It does say within 10 feet of the property line, I think, in the...
No, not the house line.
Not of the house, but of the property line.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or?
didn't read this, and I was thinking the same things, that it would need to be there would need to be an agreement between the property owners that they would be jointly responsible for it, and that they would jointly responsible for it, and that they would be indemnify each other of sewer backups between their two properties. So I think you already anticipated that, and I'm glad to see it. I don't have any problem with it. So.
If it would be one owner, then it wouldn't require that. But once properties trade hands, then it would be a need. So.
If it's titled separately, it needs it.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions for Mario? All right. Thank you, Mario. Is there? We'll open the public hearing now. If any of the public would like to comment on this item, give us your name and address.
Kim Sprague, 190 North, 850 East. So we're doing the twin home, and this is in a new subdivision in a cul-de-sac, and we do plan on doing a clean out right where these two meet, and so if there's an issue there, it'll be a little easier for us to clean it out right at an area where they're going to connect. So, but that's what we're trying to get done. There'll also be clean outs in front of the houses, and then clean outs, if this is going to be really close to like curb and gutter, maybe 5 feet behind curb and gutter, then there'll be a clean out right behind where these two join. So.
Any questions for Mr. Sprague? Anything? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll close the public hearing. And
Chair, I'll make the motion.
All right.
I move that the commission recommend that the city council approve the proposed text amendment to Chapter 8-4A-19 policy regarding service laterals of the Pleasant Grove City Code, and adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Baptista, a second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. So items 6 and 7 are continued, so we'll move to item 8, which is a public hearing to consider a request from Daniel Thomas for a preliminary subdivision plat called Valley Grove 2 Plat C on property located at 1977 West Pleasant Grove Boulevard in the Grove Interchange Subdistrict Zone.
Sure, Commissioners, this is a type of projects where I really find joy in presenting them. This type of projects to me mean that the city is alive, that is kicking, that we're moving forward. This item is for a subdivision plat. It's a preliminary subdivision plat, a commercial plat. It's proposed to be 1 lot and 2 parcels. The reason why we're creating this subdivision, or we're proposing this subdivision with only 1 lot, is because we are preparing for the construction of a commercial business in the city, and we welcome them with open arms. That's not it. There, that's the one. So the one thing that we need to take into consideration is that this is again for 1 lot, 2 parcels, and also some road dedication. That means there's all this is just setting up the base, the foundation for future development in that area. It looks like we are getting there, and I don't know why that really gets me excited. So the property that we're gonna create the 2 parcels and 1 lot is approximately 12.1 acres. It's gonna be in this area right here, and then we're gonna dedicate this road. Eventually, this will be platted as well, and more building pads or more lots will be created out of this parcel. Okay, so right now we have the reason why we have 1 lot and 2 parcels is because, again, this parcel A, is that parcel B or A? Let me check them. B. Parcel B will eventually be subdivided. Subdivided. And parcel A is this strip of land right here that kind of surrounds the proposed building lot. And the reason why they did that is because they're doing it on top of an easement. I think in the staff report, I'm very specific of what type of easement it is. So if you allow me, I'm going to check really fast. It's a storm drain and irrigation easement. Okay, so all this meets the requirements from Placer Grove City Code. Engineer has been working on this as well as land use. It meets the criteria. It looks like we're moving forward. I recommend that the Planning Commission forwards a recommendation of approval to the city engineer, for the final approval of this project. Do you guys have any questions? If you allow me to do just one tiny little thing, it's and I'm not going to dwell into it, but this is the boundaries with city of Linden. The reason why this is drawn like that is because before, usually when there's a road, they share half and half of the road. In this case, it's not going to be like that. There's going to be some boundary adjustments later on the process to adjust the city boundaries. But everything is in the right path.
Our cities or theirs?
Well, it's the same. Where the boundary would we go with Linden City?
Boundary's right here, right now. Need to be adjusted so the road is up to here.
No, we will not
Or
act.
not swap, but we'll adjust.
Correct. Will be so.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Okay.
caught it, so when he noticed it kills.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah. Mr. Thomas, would you care to add anything? All right. Thank you. We will, for formality's sake, open the public hearing, even though we don't have any members of the public here. And we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts, concerns?
Yep. I'll make a motion.
All right.
I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the city engineer for the request of Daniel Thomas for the subdivision plat called Valley Grove 2, Plat C, on property at approximately 1977 West Pleasant Grove Boulevard in the Grove Interchange Sub-District Zone, and adapting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report, and all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Baptista, second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
Chair, I'll
Yes.
make the motion that we approve the minutes for the July 13th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
And motion by Commissioner Baptista and a second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye. Chair, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Now you open up.
Adjourned.
So we do speak when we want to.
I want to leave.
Can I just say I'm grateful for great neighbors?
I don't have to worry about fences.
Oh my God.
All you have to do is get a big dog. Someone gets a big dog and everybody gets big.
Well, and he can't stop them to put their own fence up either. But my concern is who owns the fence? What side of the property though? It doesn't always match. But I didn't want to bring that up at all.
Fence lines are-
keep my mouth
fence
shut.
lines, yeah, fence
Daniel
lines.
did a good job to just nip it in the bud, right?
The person that put the fence up, they might have put them up in the right location.
Oh, we
That was an hour meeting.
we took our fence and we went
pretty quick.
and Debbie Harms, my neighbor, and I love Debbie and Tim, and we put the fence up and we went and asked them, can you guys, do you want to split the cost? And they said we'd love to split the cost, but
Am I
Tim's
on
been
it?
out of work for 3 months and we can't. We're like, okay, that's fine. So then we went and got the fence guys to come and do it, and they went and marked where they're going to put each of the posts, and then went over and got the hongs and brought them out and said, is this okay? Does this mean that is this in the property line? And then they cut one of their sprinkler lines.
Oh no!
And we didn't know what happened. It didn't show up for quite a while.
And then
And they had
there
a
was a
huge
leak,
water
and I'm
bill.
like, Tim, your yard's leaking all over mine. I don't know what's going on. So Tim comes out, does all this work for kids.
Nothing.
Our things does get their water.
Nothing. No, I don't know what
But
I
it's
want.
sort of is his fault
Probably-
because he told us that it's fine.
They're not gonna let us take anything. So we move to the library or somewhere. All those pictures, I don't know where, if they'll wanna keep them. Oh, yeah, just hold it in there. Thank you.
I know they did some kind of is it silent auction for stuff in the rec center.
They had that special meeting.
No, I can
Thank you so much. Go turn off the camera.